special. Now remember, Valentine's Day is on Sunday, but as you plan to celebrate your Valentine's Day, then you still need to be mindful that the SOPs from the Ministry of Health in as far as COVID-19 is concerned are still here. Nothing has actually changed, and so you need to be very careful when you are doing whatever you're doing to celebrate your Valentine's Day on Sunday. Now we thank you so much for choosing to be with us and welcoming you to our Pan-African Friday with the team again in studios this morning. A cold Monday, Amazima. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Well, thank you so much again for making it here today. And Mututa, James, also welcome.
Yeah, asante.
Well, here is where we are. And of course, we'll go to the Congo today, to the Democratic Republic of Congo. But just before we go to the Congo, back home here, the debate for term limits has resurfaced again. In just a statement, let me pick your mind on that.
Well, I think the debate on term limits resurfacing now, I don't think it is adding any value to the current situation. Yes, because ideally, if they say now the term limits are back, whom are they going to serve? Yes, but besides, the new government or even the new parliament has not yet sworn in. So perhaps they should give them time so that they can draw their own agenda and see how they are going to finish their term. Yes. Okay.
How about you, James?
Two things come into mind. The first thing is that the outgoing who apparently happened to reinvent this discussion are looking at first that they are likely to be back in Parliament. And once they are back in Parliament, they would want to have the term limits back. Now, they are trying to do damage control because I think they have been accused of many things, including the removal, and which has been hanging around them. But most importantly is that they also want to look like, look, we did our part. Before even we left Parliament, we had started this thing. So they want to push this burden to the incoming Parliament, because I know they are not going to exhaust it anyway, even if they discussed it. So they want to do good for the would-be wrongs that they have done, but also and of course, they also wanted to factor in something that you have term limits, but you also increase the threshold of the period in Parliament to 7 years. And you know, these 2 years have been hanging and has been paining them. They have not left that hangover.
Caught through them out.
Yes,
and they came back.
Yeah,
but you see, maybe I've also we could have missed an opportunity. You remember when the Archbishop Luanga, he was actually saying not so long ago that we should have not had this election this time round, postponed it, and maybe increase President Yoweri Museveni's term by 3 years to plan for transition and do all the things. What about if we had that the 2 years increment at that time and caught and thrown them out? Wouldn't it have saved us that embarrassment of the bishops coming out to actually make these pertinent claims?
No, I think, and again, for me, I'm growing very wary about some of these statements by men of God. The other time, my Minister of Presidency was being accused of having attacked the Catholic Church. But you see, there are issues. Because this is a priest who is on the pulpit and telling people, don't vote for the movement. Yesterday, they showed me a clip of a man singing even the Tuliambala Muchurch. So like one said, if you behave like a duck and you are eating like a duck and you are jumping like a duck, then what happened? So I think it is good for every person to remain in their lane. If the men of God are going to be sober and be transparent and be impartial, they are likely to be listened to. But if they begin pushing a political agenda within the church, that can be misunderstood. And you know, this issue of the church and the government struggling is not the first time here. from independence we have had these issues. Obote had it, Amin had it, every leader in this country has had a problem and with the church leadership. But all said and done, for me, I believe that, you know, they say you cannot give a leg of a cow to a man who has eaten a thigh of an elephant. You give extra 2 years, and they will say, now, why can't we make it 10?
Oh, okay.
Well, I just want to say that perhaps I really wish to disagree with
Mututa?
No, not with Mututa.
With the bishop?
With the minister.
Oh, with the minister.
Yeah, because really, I think that was very sweeping when you say the Catholic Church. Yes, because when individuals in a particular faith come out, doesn't mean the whole church.
Yeah, but they
represent the whole church. Yes, but when you see the church itself didn't come out to distance
exactly.
From
so when few people, because I just want to tell you this, that we've not yet reached really Uganda as a country. We've not reached a level where actually we see religions or particular faiths openly coming out to support. Because we see that in Nigeria, where people say, look here, for us, it's our turn as Muslims.
Yeah, but you see, that's how it starts. I also want to agree with
But we are not yet at that level.
You see, but that's how it starts. That's how it starts to actually get there. Too. I also agree with Mtuta that if you come and make that sweeping statement, and the authorities that be, for example, we don't want to get into the issues of the church, but the church has got its hierarchy, it has got its leadership, the national top leadership, I think, which is ecumenical council. Now, if you, Bishop Akol, come out to make those statements and all those things, and nothing is actually done to you, there is no reprimand, there is no anything, and they just let you be. You paint a picture that possibly, yes, because you see, yes, in our Uganda culture, we know that if you want to abuse an elder person, you actually set somebody. You can use a madman, you can use a drunkard, you can use a child, you can use all these things, and then once they make it, and then you just shy away, then you're actually condoning that. But away from that, let's get to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This morning, and just look at the issues in there, looking at the challenges, possibly the opportunities. We saw power transiting and moving from President Joseph Kabila to a new president, Felix Tshisekedi. But when you look at the issues of the Congo, and just recently when we saw the speaker, Ilunga, being thrown out, it means a lot of things, and we just want to discuss and just get into the issues of Congo. Now that Tshisekedi also assumes the chairpersonship of the African Union, what is this for Wandugu who are in Congo? I'll start with your call.
Well, I think the situation in Congo is very interesting, and for every African on the continent really should take interest in what happens in Congo, and more so East Africa, because Congo, DR Congo, borders 5 of the East African countries apart from Kenya. Actually, all the East African countries apart from Kenya. It borders South Sudan.
Just apart from Kenya?
Yeah, apart from Kenya.
All the
now,
others, yes.
It means, therefore, that we have same communities in Congo and East Africa. Yes, because when you go to West Nile, the Alur, actually they have a bigger part of their tribesmen in Congo. The Lugbar, in Kasese, the Bakonzo, in Chisoro. So you find that we relate with the people of Congo, and whatever affects them in one way or the other affects East Africa. Now, Congo is the biggest trader with East Africa. Actually, when you are at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, you'll even be surprised that there are direct flights to Kinshasa, Lubumbashi, and Goma. So implying that there is a lot of business between East Africa and Congo. When you see trucks moving from Mombasa, most of them are going to Congo. So we actually do a lot of business with Congo. And at one time, even actually President Magufuli of Tanzania was encouraged Tshisekedi that, look here, why don't you join the East African community? You are home with East Africa. So this brings us together with the people. Besides, Congo has 4 national languages. They have Chiluba, they have Kikongo, they have Lingala, and they have Swahili, which Swahili is the lingua franca of the East African community. So there are so many things that bring us together. Now, getting to Congo, what is really happening now that Tshisekedi is president, I mean, is the chairperson of the African Union. I think the events from December are trying to show Tshisekedi gaining control over Congo. We shall go back in December. In December, Parliament impeached the Speaker. The Speaker, Jeanine Mabunda, the lady, actually she was a lady,
Yes.
was an ally to Kabila. But now I think Kabila made one mistake, that he has brought allies who are, he brought allies who are, we can put them at the center of events. I think Mabunda Jeanine could be the equivalent of this yellow girl from Zimbabwe, what is this, Anifa Kawe. It's like making Anifa Kawe the Speaker of Parliament. So even if you have a majority, definitely people will say, look here, she does not have the credentials. So that was Mabunda for you. And she was kicked out. So when they kick her out, who comes in? Christopher Mboso. Christopher Mboso is an ally to Tshisekedi. So that now means Tshisekedi is taking control over Parliament. Now, just recently, even the Prime Minister, who was an ally to Kabila, that is Sylvester Ilunga, was also thrown out, impeached. You get? So implying that now they are trying to weed out much as that is all happening.
And
then finally, now the fact that actually 2 years into his term, he's made the chairperson of African Union. That is actually a plus for him in Congo. Say, look here, he's not even being recognized by other presidents. So that actually he is slowly consolidating his grip on power.
Okay. Yes. Well, thank you so much. Ndugu Mtuta, I'll come to you. Now, just looking at the issues as they keep unfolding in the Congo, with what it's actually trying to do, throwing out the Speaker, now the other day, the Prime Minister, and of course also creating what he called the Sacred Union of Nations. Now, you know, he has also, quote unquote, that Sacred Union of Nations, and just looking at how Tshisekedi came into this thing, and the sort of agreement that they had with President Kabila. Where many people think that Kabila is actually watching events happening because maybe he wants to give it a rebound in 2023. And just looking at quite a number of things happening in the different regions, of course, in Congo, and now even making him chairperson of the African Union. Do you think the people in Congo actually understand this kind of politics? And just look at the Congo, the way it is, because when you get back to the post history of the post-colonial, the post-independence history of Congo, you will notice that this is actually a country that has been riddled with every other challenge. It has suffered more challenges on the continent than any other person. Did you think Kabila, I beg your pardon, Tshisekedi can now have some magic of actually making this very strong, this very big nation a strong pillar in the region?
I think he may not exactly move to consolidate power at once, but he's progressing. First of all, there was a mistakes that were made on both ends. I think it was a bad idea to ally with Kabila. But at the same time, Kabila also made a mistake to ally with Tshisekedi, knowing that Tshisekedi was a weak candidate. Actually, reality is that Tshisekedi should have not been the president. There could have been another person who was a president. But Kabila, knowing that his would-be successor was not winning, he had to opt for someone who he thought would arm twist. But at the same
not
time,
let the opposition take it from them.
Exactly.
Not let his opposition take it.
But you also realize that Tshisekedi comes from a very strong family, a politically strong, because the Tshisekedi, the father, has been a prime minister of Congo for quite some time.
Etienne Tshisekedi.
Yes, and had lived in opposition to a brutal man like Mobutu. So it's a very strong family. And Tshisekedi himself, the president now, was because when his father was put under house arrest, I think the whole family moved to the province where they stayed until Tshisekedi, I think in around 90 something when he moves to go for studies. But one thing that needs to be understood is that once you leave power, you are by default have left. Because Kabila thought by trying to support and aligning with Tshisekedi, he will be able to control things from remote. True, he tried. Remember, the cabinet took a number of months to be put in place.
The discussion was ensuing every time of deciding. And of course, Kabila took key positions of ministers.
Yeah, three most of the most important ministries of finance.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister. Then there is defense. Then there is foreign affairs. Those are key. But you know, even Ilunga was now a compromise. Kabila had wanted to appoint a man they call Ayum, who is the chairman of the mineral company, mineral something in Congo, and he thought that would be the prime minister. But the World Bank and other groups said no, not this one. But at the same time, the Tshisekedi group also didn't want him. So they went back. Actually, the man Tshisekedi had wanted was refused, and he was instead made the chief minister, like something like that. But now Kabila thought by doing that he will be able to influence. Now, time comes when Tshisekedi has to take the credit, has to take control, has to manage. And things seem to be unfolding in his favor when they sacked the speaker, and now they got rid of the prime minister. And you know, the other time there was a Brown in parliament, people were beating themselves like a schoolboys. You can see. So that was now the breakaway from the baptism of fire of the disengagement between Kabila and Tshisekedi. And I think things are not going to be the same. We are likely to see more of these scenes happen in Congo to the extent that, God forbid, either we will see Kabila under house arrest or something like that will happen. Because, I mean, this madness has to stop at some point. You are the president, you have left, And creating this chaos. Now, all these chaos were created because someone said, we want to control the house.
Actually, from what you're saying, and then from what you're seeing, the pictures there, which of course also give a very bad image to the continent and the country itself. You just talked about that. You see, to actually impeach the Prime Minister, Tshisekedi had to actually convince many of these, the majority of Kabila's allies. But don't you also look at it as a very fragile majority to him, in a way? Because, you see, politics is manipulation, politics is quite a number of things. Don't you think, because even when you're talking about arresting Kabila, but Kabila, first of all, is actually now lying low as if he doesn't know what is happening in a way, and, you know, watching and seeing all the things, the agreement that they had, the coalition, everything seems to be falling apart in just a span of years. Do you think this is actually a good way for the country of Congo, for example?
No, I just want to say that what is happening in Congo actually is inevitable. We must say that if you've been somebody really watching politics on the continent, we saw it coming. Every country where a president has failed to amend the constitution to create a third term and has just handpicked a successor, and they feel that they can control the successor on remote. This is what has happened.
Exactly.
It happened in Malawi. When Bakil Muluzu failed to amend the constitution, he picked on Bingwa Mtarika. In 2004, Bingwa Mtarika was elected the president under UDF. But because Bakili Muluzu wanted to micromanage Bingwa Mtarika, 1 year later in 2005, Bingwa Mtarika formed his own party when he was the president. And we remember the parliament in Malawi actually moving a motion to impeach Bingwa Mtarika. Because they say, Bingwa Mtarika, you elected on UDF. Now you have a DPP party. So eventually, during that stuff, that even the day when actually the motion was supposed to be tabled, the speaker collapsed because he didn't know what to do. You get it? But as the day followed night, most of the UDF MPs had defected to DPP. So it's now what is happening, that now all this, the majority in courts of Kabila has already defected to Tshisekedi. Because when Tshisekedi in December was on record saying that you claim you have the majority, but it no longer listens to you. So this is a thing. The same thing happened in Zambia. When Frederick Chiluba also failed to amend the constitution and he handpicked Levi Mwanawasa, what happened? Levi Mwanawasa arrested even Chiluba because of, he could not tolerate that interference. So we saw this. I think the best thing for Kabila is to go to his Chikangati home and maybe look after his national park that he has actually put up there. So that perhaps if people want to consult him, they should go and consult him. But others, if he doesn't do that, I see what he did in 2011 to Tshisekedi's father happening to him. Because in 2011, the context was between Joseph Kabila, actually it was a hot race, between Joseph Kabila and Etienne Tshisekedi Wamulumba, the father of actually Felix Tshisekedi. And Etienne Tshisekedi, after election, said, look here, I've been robbed of my victory, and he declared himself president. So what happened is that Kabila put him under house arrest. So I can see now the same thing now happening to Kabila. If
Tshisekedi might do that.
Yeah, actually yes, Tshisekedi may do that.
But at the same time, Kabila is not also silent. He's trying to organize the retake of power through parliament, and if that fails, I'm sure he also has plan B. But you know, power is such a fragile thing. You can influence things as you know. There is even a saying that a dog knows that its master is the one that feeds it, and that happens with the power. You cannot micromanage when you are not the one deciding on who takes what. Now, once Tshisekedi cut himself from Kabila, he controls the resources, he controls the power. And these MPs want that, to have part of that. And I don't see that with Kabila as of now. Because maybe Kabila is trying to make a comeback. But also Tshisekedi is going to make it very difficult for Kabila to make a comeback. I will not be surprised to find cases trumped on him.
Corruption.
And, yes, corruption and also maybe amendment of the constitution not to allow him get back into politics. That's also going to be possible. But you see, they started with a majority in parliament, and the stalemate that took 6 months before they could get to parliament, to cabinet, and have these positions. But now it is becoming so easy. Whoever they don't want is being thrown out, which means the base has shifted. Because Kabila can no longer control the Senate, the parliament can now not control the cabinet, although he has the majority in cabinet. And the army, because that's also the other sticky issue. Exactly.
The other sticky issue that you talk about here is the allies, Kabila's allies, have very much control with the forces. Rather, they have much control of the arms. The police, the army, those are still allying and siding with Kabila. Isn't it also now a very fragile situation for Tshisekedi if Kabila still has an upper hand with the arms?
But you know, even with that one, is something you cannot try, because these police men and the army men want promotions. And they can only have those promotions and their welfare looked after
by the commander-in-chief.
Yes. So you are not going to ally with someone whose future even you are not sure about. So alliance shifts immediately. You will see now the army aligning itself with the commander-in-chief. And if it is a disciplined army, and I guess it is, they are going to abandon Kabila.
Maybe Ndogo Jagenda, maybe to add on what Mtuta is saying, is that when Janine Mabunda was the speaker, it was difficult for Tshisekedi to even reshuffle the army, because according to the Congolese constitution, the parliament has to approve in case you want to make changes in the army. Now that he has a speaker Mboso who is ally, and now that actually he has them, because you look at how they voted. That when Mboso was being voted, out of the 450 members of parliament, Mbosso got 380. So implying that now even a bigger section of parliament is now moving towards Tshisekedi. So implying that now he's at liberty to make changes in the army.
Exactly.
So if perhaps Kabila was still dreaming that he still controls the army, then I think he should rethink. Yes.
Where does this all leave now the people of Congo? Because at the end of the day, there will be struggles. Tshisekedi will pull this. Kabila will also try to manipulate this or that and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, is where does it leave the country called Congo and the people of Congo? Because it's one thing for one to outplay the other, because this is politics. For one to outplay the other, like we're all looking into the history. We saw that with Kabila and Etienne Tshisekedi. We're now seeing it with Felix Tshisekedi and Kabila. Then eventually the other day, maybe Kabila will also be put on house arrest now. Felix will now, you know, occupy it wholly and holistically. Then maybe another will also rise and do the same things. Do you look at this particular change in Congo actually becoming a thing of the people, as opposed to some political players who are benefiting of this and that and this and that and stuff like that?
The problem now becomes historical. That once the center can no longer hold, the power shifts to the regions. Like you remember in the history that when there was the problem with the first leadership of Congo, Lubumbashi became a problem, Kisangani becomes a problem, Katanga becomes a problem.
Katanga, that's Lubumbashi.
Yes,
Katanga
exactly.
is Lubumbashi. In the 60s, Katanga just decided to actually go off.
So we may see this play out again. People saying now Kabila is going to have some regions supporting him, and Tshisekedi is going to have some regions supporting him. And in the next election, I think it's going to be a very divided election, because if Kabila is to participate, then Tshisekedi is also participating. He will want to have his second term in office, and this one will want to make a comeback. There's likely to be violence. But you know, the history of Congo is such that the players from outside are also very strong. We have seen in the past, we saw the influence of China, the influence of Russia, the influence of US, and in so doing, a lot of mistakes have been made by both the internal and these external players. So what can happen is that if I were a politician in Congo, is to have a strong parliament that can resolve some of these issues. Now the problem with the politicians in Congo, like most of the African states, but Congo is known for that, is the corruption. Because a lot of, again, these external forces are reflected in what is being done in parliament.
It's also believed actually that Tshisekedi is winning over parliament because there's a lot of money moving. They are buying out quite a number of members of parliament. So the issue of buying out MPs is actually not a unique thing to a particular country.
Yes,
so it's an African, it's also now an African way of doing business or something. That members of parliament are actually goods to be traded.
No, actually, not only that, because you remember in the 60s, in the 60s, actually, what happened is that when Patrice Lumumba was assassinated, is that the first thing was to buy off the army officers who were actually very loyal to Lumumba, including Mobutu Sese Seko himself. So the politics of buying off people has always been part of the Congo, but also equal, as he said. In Congo, when you look at the history of Congo, whoever wins takes over Congo and consolidates their power, it's that person who actually plays his international relations well. That if you ally with the right people internationally, you always have it. I think Lumumba's mistake was allying with Russia. Actually, being seen to ally with Russia, actually, that was his biggest mistake.
Actually, was I choose
that was his biggest mistake. But now you look at Mobutu, why he managed to stay in power for all that was allying with the right people. And I can now see the very forces that actually...
I actually really do not care how long they stay there. But at the end of the day, is when you look into the history of the Congo, from the times of the Leopolds and stuff like that, and you know, even when we got our independence, it's one country, Congo, that has been riddled with all these things. All these other countries, Uganda, we can actually say we had these bad regimes until some time. Then, you know, we got into recovery. We've made strides, we've made progress, we've moved on. Countries like Kenya, Tanzania is actually sailing, you know, smoothly. You can look into all these countries, of course, which had wars and stuff like that. But the situation in Congo is very fragile. That at the end of the day, whether you stay as long as Mobutu stayed, or as long as Kabila stayed for 18 years, or Tshisekedi may also spend another 18 years if he wants, or even 20. But that's not the biggest issue. For example, if Kabila wants to return in 2023, now, when you get into the Bretton Woods University institutions, IMF, World Bank, they've also set their own conditions. Number one, they want a new board of the central bank, if they will give support to Congo. The other condition, and you wonder why they're interested in that, is they also want a new chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Now, they're also now deciding on, and they will tell you that one of the reasons why actually Tshisekedi managed to become president was because Kabila had an upper hand over the electoral body, and so they managed to know how to play some politics behind the back doors to ensure that this happens. Now, if the condition is Tshisekedi now needs to also reshuffle the Electoral Commission and find a new chairperson of the body. You need a new board of the central bank. Now, these are also conditions that are coming from the would-be donors. Should it happen that in 2023, Kabila wants to bounce back, if he thinks he still has some stronghold, we do not know. If he still has some allies in the army, in the police, in cabinet, in parliament, and in the other, you know, civil service, we don't know. What do you think this will actually mean for the people in Congo? Because at the end of the day, there will be a president. There will be a president, whether Tshisekedi or another person. Yes. But by and large, it now comes back to the people of Congo.
I think the people of Congo will continue being at these crossroads until such a time that the issues of governance are well handled. And to handle those issues of governance in Congo, vast as it is, you need to empower the local government, the local parliament, the administrative units within those local areas of the respective regions are empowered. That will be easier, because then the people will be able to decide on what they can do. But other than that, Congo, you know, unlike Uganda, is a complex country. The country is too big, administration is a bit difficult, and the administration is mainly centered within the capital.
Cities.
Yes, and within the cities. And then the connectivity, even between those cities, is a problem. First of all, transport is a problem. Communication in Congo is a problem. And then the government reach, the feeling of government in the rural areas is because this is a country where people just get guns and stage a road. It's not even a road block, it's a path block. and they begin collecting money. Because government is not felt within the populations. So there's that need. If you empowered the regions, and they can take charge of their respective jurisdictions, it is possible that the government can be felt up to the grassroots. And then you will be able to provide the social services, because people don't feel the government, don't see any government help, don't see. So until that time that these people can be able to be part of that government. But as long as this government is suspended in Kinshasa and some few capitals of the country, that is still going to be a problem. But at the same time, with that disorganization, you may not be able to delink yourself from the influences of the funders. Because Congo, rich as it is, cannot make use of its resources. Its resources are being controlled from elsewhere. So you need to take charge of your resources, to take charge of your budget, to be able to budget for your people and provide those services as need arises. And then the other thing is that the politicians of Congo, most of actually the members of parliament, including the presidents have been brought up from elsewhere. just and came back to Congo to be leaders. So maybe they don't completely link up with the problems of the Congo, because there is a divide for these guys who have grown up in the capitals of Europe, coming back to Congo just to take up leadership. They may not have that pain that the Congolese and the problems that the Congolese are going through.
Okay.
But then the resources in Congo are enough to manage, to work on the roads, to work on the airports, to work on everything that the Congolese people want to be able to move on their lives.
I want to look at President Felix Tshisekedi as EU chairperson. When AU, I beg your pardon, not EU, but AU. There is a book written by one researcher who is also a broadcaster and a journalist. He's called Tim Marshall. His book is called Prisoners of Geography. And when he discusses, in his book, Prisoners of Geography, he talks about the 10 geopolitical maps. Now, when he discusses the map of Africa, he extensively talks about this country called Congo. And in his research, he does believe that if you have a stable Congo, then you can eventually have a stable Africa. If you have a Congo that is stable. Now, he describes Congo as a country, he describes the country Congo as an egg without a yolk. So he says when the colonists were actually going, they left an egg without a yolk. Now, this egg was not fertilized, so that means you can only have this egg forever, and then you can never expect to get a chick out of this particular. So looking at him from that history, that background, and from what people look at it, the struggles over President Magufuli saying, why don't you come home? It bothers 5 of East African states and partner states. You think coming to be part of East Africa would actually be a good idea. The other side, SADC, I think, is also pulling to say, why can't we have this as part of us? Now, when you look at the country Congo itself, it's very vast land, for example, with just a few people there, with so many mineral resources and stuff like that. Having President Felix Tshisekedi as the chairperson of the African Union, do you think this actually speaks bigger, not just for the country Congo, but for even the continent as a whole?
Well, I just want to say that Tshisekedi is not the first president of Congo to become the chair.
I am looking at this situation.
Yes, because Mobutu at one time was actually, Mobutu was. So he's not the first time. And secondly, of course, like Nkrumah put it in his book of The Conflict of the Congo, looking at saying that the problems of Congo will be resolved if the Congolese actually rise to the occasion of determining their destiny. And unfortunately, that is yet to happen, that the Congolese will determine their destiny, because every other time we see it is a team, a group of people seated in Kinshasa determining, and actually not even seated in Kinshasa, because even whatever is being discussed in Kinshasa is imposed from somewhere. So until maybe we see that these people take full charge of their country, that's when the country can maybe start on the right path. But I just wanted also to talk about Kabila coming back. I don't see Kabila coming back in 2023 because, first of all, the constitution does not allow him. He served his 2 terms. All along, he thought that during Tshisekedi's time, they would amend the constitution. But from the look of things, I don't see that happening, because he's now losing grip on parliament, where he thought that he would have that amended. And now the other issue that actually is also going to be a very, very serious issue to the coming back of Tshisekedi is the return of Moise Katumbi. You see, when in 2016, when Kabila's time was up, and he was trying to play games to extend, to see how he changes the constitution. Actually, in Congo, people thought that the next person was the governor of Katanga, Moise Katumbi, and eventually he was locked out of the race. He was even exiled. Okay, and that is how his supporters shifted to Martin Fayulu. They shifted to Martin Fayulu. So now that Moise Katumbi is back in the country, I see if by any chance Felix and Katumbi come up with an alliance, that is actually going to be the end of Kabila. But also, again, in the unlikely event that Moise and Tshisekedi cannot come up with an alliance, Tshisekedi has the Tshisekedi name to fall back to. because the memories, Tshisekedi actually is the Raila Odinga of I think Tshisekedi is like the Odinga family. That when you talk about the Jaramogi family, that when you talk about the opposition politics in Congo, you're talking about Tshisekedi.
Yeah.
And even when Tshisekedi was, actually when Tshisekedi died, his party, when they were trying to look for a successor, because Etienne had warned the party that I don't trust my son, Felix. He's a person of deals. I'm sure one time he'll end up betraying you if you made him your president. But it was Felix's mother who convinced the party members that, look here, much as the old man had misgivings about his own son, but there is the Tshisekedi name. He is still a brand in Congo, and that's how he was given that's why he was given the president of the party. And he did now. So Tshisekedi has a name to fall back to, which is a brand. And I can see he is now reviving those the roots, because now when you go to places like Kasai, Kananga, Bujimai, he is trying to consolidate his home base. And now when you go
but they're attacking Kasai, they're attacking people in like Kasai.
So when you go to places like Lubumbashi, where actually the other time was being seen as a betrayer, he's now being welcomed because he has allowed their son to come back at Tumbi. So these are some of the things. And now he's also again trying to quote the Catholic Church. Remember in Congo, actually the Catholic Church is very, it's a very, very strong institution.
Or it is even their problem.
Actually, it is part of the problem.
So I would
part of the problem.
And you know, this is historical, that in Congo, actually, you cannot rule peacefully without the Catholic Church, because
so then that's a problem actually. Then the Catholic Church is
actually talking about that. You know, when Tsombe was a Catholic, Lumumba was a Catholic. This man Mobutu was a Catholic, and most of the presidents of Congo have had the Joseph name to their names. But you know, until the American, I mean the Belgians convinced because most of the population and the leaders in the post-independence and independent Congo were Catholics. So the Belgians convinced them that if you left this man Lumumba, we will get a better Catholic who can be, because I think Lumumba was this man who was very open-minded, accommodating all this. So the Catholic Church said no. I mean, they were confused. The Catholic Church said no. This man, if you leave him, is now that is moving towards the Soviets, is going to be a problem, and that's how he was sacrificed. But at the same time, you know that the external forces are very strong, and for me, the undoing of Tshisekedi is that is among those people who have been talking about having grown up in the capitals of Europe. You may miss a few things locally here.
Indigenous.
Yes, yeah, and being a deal maker he is. They're already having issues on these companies that would want to have concessions in the DRC. Of course, they are promising him, we are going to make this, we are going to build this, we are going to renovate this. But at the end of it, they are the beneficiaries. Actually, the basic reason why Lumumba was assassinated in Congo was because he was moving away from the Belgians who wanted the resources, and the Americans, and for people who the historians will know that the Nagasaki bomb, the materials that made the bomb for Nagasaki were actually
in Japan.
Yes, were brought from Congo. So the Americans didn't want to lose that bit of the resources, and the Belgians also wanted it. The Chinese, who have been the old friends of the Congolese, the Congolese, wanted to have that, and the Soviets also wanted to come in. Now, much as the other big problem in Congo has been the church, the Catholic Church, there is even the bigger problem of when you look at these leaders. Most of them eventually become stooges of the foreign powers.
Yes.
And that one, I think, as the Africans, the African Union need to come in strong to give guidance to the leadership in Congo and many of the African countries generally, so that we seem, whenever we have a problem, it is easier, and we discussed it last time, it is easier to look for support from elsewhere outside of Africa. And yet, Africans can provide some of these best solutions, knowing our traditions, knowing our environments, knowing our backgrounds. But these European and the American capitals may not necessarily help us. Remember, for example, when he was running around for support, he tried to get support. Actually, going to the Soviet was not the best solution. He personally never liked the Soviets, but he took to the UN. And the other biggest problem was coming to in the Congo is the UN issue. Because UN has been in Congo from day one of independence of the Congo.
Exactly. They've been there forever.
Yes. But whichever problem we have in Congo today is also linked to the UN. Now, to the extent that is UN also being used as a conduit for smuggling? To
fuel the conflict.
Yes, in the DRC. So that, because under this can be seen from the first discussion that Lumumba had with the Secretary General of the UN at the time when he was having problems over the insurrections in the Congo. He said he was asking for the UN peacekeepers to come to Congo. Actually, is the one who asked for them to help in the pacification of Congo. But when these guys come, and he thought they were going to help, they say, no, that's not our mandate. Then why did you come in the first place? Yes, because I asked you to come and help me, and you say that's not you. Yeah. And at the same time, the belligerents were coming in and securing their people, but also going in areas which were rich with minerals. So, but you said you came to secure your people. Why are you going to all these places? And that's how the man ends up.
Why are they being selective with the security?
Exactly.
Selective. I call we're running out of time. Let's just get to this now. Look at the President Tshisekedi and who he is from, his history, his background, and now being at the helm of issues in there. Talk about Moise returning and trying to form an alliance. From what you've seen, now this particular alliance breaking in just about 2 years, can Moise trust Tshisekedi for any alliance? Can there be any trust for any alliance from what you're actually seeing playing out now? If they wanted to forge one, to possibly now deflate and then finally put an end to Joseph Kabila.
Well, I just want to say that the politician now you cannot trust in Congo is Tshisekedi.
Exactly.
Because in 2018, actually the opposition came up with a platform. Said, look here, we should have a united platform against Kabila and his party.
Exactly.
And they decided on Martin Fayulu. But again, we see Vital Kamerhe and Tshisekedi say, no. Actually, even after they had signed, but days later, they bowed out. They bowed out and said, no, me, I'm going to be the third force. And now you see his alliance with also Kabila 2 years down the road. Yeah, it's actually. So can
Moise trust him for an alliance?
I don't think Moise can trust him. But of course, what happens now here is that it's now politics of survival. Is that it is who takes what? That is the issue. Because Martin Fayulu may want to also get into government.
Yes, exactly.
The only way he's going to ally with Tshisekedi. But also...
but can he allow? Because he's trying to ally with Tshisekedi and see who Tshisekedi can actually become.
It's the same thing. I don't think really that Kabila allied with Tshisekedi out of conviction. He just looked at him as...
It was convenience.
It's convenience that this is somebody who is weak. I can Amplisto has no experience in running government.
Exactly. Now, no, that particular one, did Kabila underrate Tshisekedi?
I think that is it.
By making that mistake?
Yes. And he actually, Kabila underrated Tshisekedi, Kabila underrated Mabunda, and said that, yes, since they have no experience. Because where is Tshisekedi's experience? First of all, is that he has grown up in Brussels. He has been in Brussels. Brussels. Yes, he just came back the other day recently. Even during campaigns, he could not even speak any of the four languages, national languages of Congo. He was actually campaigning in French. So that is him. But also, you know, there are...
But you remember at the same time, I think it was around 2016 when he was elected a member of his town.
In Kasai.
Yes, and he didn't go to parliament because he was claiming that the elections were rigged. But what we heard later on is that he was told that he would be murdered, and he got scared. He couldn't come back from Brussels when he left. So he is not a person, for me, like he put, that one can trust with the alliances. But of course, sometimes people change.
Does being the chairperson of the African Union help him now get on track, get onto the African trajectory now? Do you look at that happening now? Well, with members, of course, in there, there's so many others. Paul Kagame was just being Ron Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and several others. Now these seasoned leaders, statesmen who have actually been there, they've looked and navigated the entire continent. Did you look at them as helping now? A young man on the block, a young leader to actually follow the trajectory of the African Pan-African dream.
I think Tshisekedi, he has already received mentorship. Is from the regional kingmakers, and I think that's why you see what is happening in Congo is happening, because ideally they are regional players whom we may not name, who actually determine who takes what where, how and when, and the moment you don't really play along with the
big boys,
then you're out. And with the confidence Tshisekedi has, it means he's now in good books with the regional players. But you know, as really Shakespeare put it, you know, we have three categories of great men. One, there are those who work hard for greatness. Just like we see President Yoweri Museveni says that he worked hard for what for the legacy that he's enjoying. Then there are those who are born into greatness. Of course, like we can talk about a person like Kabila, that your father passes on, and
then you take it.
And you take it. But there are also those we find that greatness just rushed onto them, just like Kabila. No one expected him. He was actually not among the front. Tshisekedi was not even among the front runners. But all of a sudden, somebody who does not even have 5 members of parliament in the National Assembly is declared the president. So I mean, that is how things work.
Well, finally, from you, Mututa, is this change really change in the DRC? Is it real change in the DRC? Because at the end of the day, I am looking at the 60 million people in Congo. You can't have all these fanfares, the flares, the flamboyancy, the coalitions, the deals, whatever we want to call it. But at the end of the day, it comes up to the people. Is this real change for them that they can actually look at it and say, here is where we go?
Well, we can say, given the African context, it is important because this is the first ever transition of power, peaceful, from one regime to another. And I think that we must congratulate the people of Congo having reached that. Of course, it may not be a big step, but it's really a very important step. And building on that, maybe now, if we are going to see more of that happening, we are likely to get in the leadership more statesmen who will be more concerned about Congo and who will have what it takes to lead Congo. And I don't think the current president will be one of those. But subsequently, I'm sure we will have people who are more focused, more who really have the mathematics on how to tackle the problems of Congo. And of course, when he becomes the chairman of African Union, does that help him or does he help the African Union? I don't expect much for him to be, that he's going to be doing as the chairman of the African Union. In fact, it is the African Union that's going to help him more than he is going to help the Union. Yeah, because I heard in his speech when he was talking, one of the points was insisting that it's going to make Africa the powerhouse. I don't see that happening in Eastern because I don't even see that happening in the Congo. But the immediate person who has been there, I think was the chairman was President Ramaphosa, who said that the African Union activities had slumped because of the COVID. But he said for him, during his time, he has been able to do 2 things which is proud. The first one is that he managed to get debt relief successfully for the African countries, but also to get funding for for vaccines for the African continent, for some of the African countries. So you see that even him as a person is not a very focused politician, that he does not tell you things, that does not convince you that, look, you have a leader. But as for convenience, yes, Congo has a leader now, but this leader may not be doing much in taking Congo from where it is to the next level. But I'm sure it is an important stage that the Congo has reached to have that peaceful transition of power. And if they keep that, it's going to be important.
Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen. I call Amazima and James Mututa on our Pan-African Friday here, trying to discuss and look into the issues, the struggles of power in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, it is our desire that a peaceful Congo is a peaceful Africa. It's a peaceful East African region. So we want the best for Congo, we want the best for the people of Congo, and we think and feel that once you have a settled Congo, once you have a peaceful Congo, once you have things working out well there, it's the pride of all of us, not just the people in Congo. So we just want to wish them the best and ask for support from anybody who can actually offer this support, especially the African Union, to actually ensure that, yes, Congo becomes that powerful country, powerful state, powerful nation that all of us can benefit from. Now, I want to thank you so much and promise that we'll return on Friday again with our Pan-African Friday, looking onto the issues of the African continent, how they play out and how they affect us. Remember, when we look into Congo, we try to bring it back home here and say, yes, if Congo is not at peace, how are we affected? If Congo is at peace, if Congo is excelling and going on well, then how do we benefit from that? Thank you so much for choosing to be with us this morning and thanking everybody on our Pan-African Friday. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka, saying blessed weekend, good morning and bye.
Live